Thank you very much, Max, for inviting me, and I'm very happy and very delighted to be here tonight. So, first question, how many of you are into fashion, into design? How many of you know about smart fabrics, wearable technology? Have you ever heard about it? Okay, not so many. Okay, then you are at the right place here, because I want to give you some insights of new or the latest trends in the not only fashion industry but design industry. So, and let me tell you a little bit more about myself. So many years ago I started my career as a costume designer for opera, film, and theater back in Europe. And I've always been fascinated by materials and textiles and what you can do with these materials. Pleat, dye, cut, sew, stitch, or what else not. And when I moved to LA and started working at FIDM, I had one day this aha moment. I saw a magazine, and in the magazine was a raincoat that could be turned into a blow-up mattress. And it was called Urban Survivor. And so immediately I kind of got connected to this whole idea and started researching new innovative ideas, garments, textiles, etc. And ever since I found my passion, I started and established the Innovative Textile Materials Department at FIDM, the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, and started also my own consulting firm, Madisons. So because, I'm passionate about educating young people or young designers and professionals about the possibilities that exist in the design and fashion industry. So engineering fashion, what does that mean? That means bringing in new materials and new ways of making things. So I'd like to point out 5 concepts and products in the textile and design industry. For example, circular economy and sustainability. So meaning being mindful of the environment and production processes. Then biofashion and biosynthetics, merging biology and design, wearable technology, high performance. That means garments that attempt to combine aesthetics with technology and functional tech. And then 3D printing, which is innovative and considered sustainable because there's almost no waste. So have you heard of, do you know fast fashion? What fast fashion means? So that's what we are doing right now. So we buy cheap stuff that lasts maybe 5 or 10 washes, and then we just toss it. It lands on the landfills and doesn't go anywhere. So that's a concept called take, make, and dispose, or linear economy that just land on landfills. And the fashion industry is the 2nd largest polluter in the world. I don't know if you knew that. So where is circular economy? So there's a whole cycle. At the beginning, you see you as a designer, you pick the right material, that you know that at the end of this life cycle, it either can be or upcycled again and start all over again, or if it lands on a landfill, that it can biodegrade. So that is called circular economy. I will show you a video by company Recover. Recover is my favorite company right now. They're based in Spain, but they have representatives here in the United States. And Recover collects garments from all over the world and turn discarded cotton and polyester garments into fiber, yarns, and new fabrics. And let's see how that works. So this is a quite amazing concept, I think, and they already started collaborating with major brands that actually pollute the whole wide world, such as Zara and H&M. Here we see a denim jacket designed by Pharrell Williams. You all know Pharrell Williams, right? The singer. And he has become the creative director of G-Star Raw, and he's on the forefront of sustainability as well. So they collaborate with a company called BIONIC Yarn. And BIONIC Yarn collects ocean waste, ocean plastics from the oceans, and turns it into yarn, into fiber. BIONIC Yarn also collaborates with H&M on their Conscious collection. And let's watch.
We are completely surrounded by water. And water is the lifeblood of this planet.
Every year, a massive amount of plastic ends up in our oceans. In an effort to help solve this problem, G-Star Raw Denim, BIONIC, and the Vortex Project joined forces to create the world's first denim collection ever made from ocean plastic. Raw for the oceans. Vortex retrieves the plastic from the oceans, from which BIONIC makes the yarn. To turn this yarn into denim, we needed to revise our entire manufacturing process, involving everyone in the supply chain, from our mills to the fabric specialists and the designers. Together with BIONIC's creative director, Pharrell Williams, we designed the collection. For our campaign, we created a character called Otto, which was integrated into the design of the collection. And brought to life in an animation.
Dear human beings, we vacation by the oceans, we bathe in the oceans, we eat from the oceans. But very few of us think of the oceans beyond what we want from it. The oceans need us now. It's filling up with plastic and ruining the neighborhood. G-Star and BIONIC Yarn want you to come together for Big Blue and wear the responsibility for the oceans. Happy life, happy human beings, and happy oceans.
During New York Fashion Week, we launched our campaign, joined by international press and a network of ocean specialists.
I see this eclectic group of people as a paradigm, if you like, for a new blue future.
If we do what we're supposed to do, then the entire world can be happy. So thank you.
Within a few days, our message spread across the globe. This is not just a drop in the ocean. G-Star truly hopes we will inspire others to wear the responsibility for the oceans.
So he already came up now with his 5th collection and made out of BIONIC yarn. Another company that retrieves plastic from the oceans is PARLEY can you hear me? Yeah. For the oceans, and Stella McCartney has been using this yarn in parts of her collection. So the latest and biggest trend right now is creating completely new materials from leftovers or waste from the food and drinking industry. So there's fibers, fabrics made from orange peels, coffee grounds, coconut shells, mushrooms, pineapple, and cork. Here we see a bag made from pineapple leather, so-called leather. It's a leather-like material, and a company called Pinatex makes this material from the waste of pineapple plant leaf fibers. We have a bag and a pair of shoes in our FIDM permanent collection. Or here we see Olivia Firth, founder of EcoAge Ltd, at the Met Gala in May 2017. I'm not so sure about the design. I don't know what you think about it, but I just think it's a nice try, just to show, what is possible and could be more developed, And then there's a thing called mushroom leather. So an Italian company is growing leather-like material called muskin, and muskin is a skin extracted from the mushroom heads. So, and the total absence of chemicals makes muskin totally non-toxic, and it's breathable and has water-repellent characteristics. Here we see a bag made from muskin, and it was blended with hemp and linen to make it more durable. And company in Italy called Orange Fiber makes fabric from the waste of citrus fruit peels, which are processed in a certain way to extract the cellulose. And more than 700,000 tons of citrus waste lands on landfills in Italy. So I'm curious how much here in California land on landfills. So that would be a nice thing to investigate. And maybe you know this high fashion brand Salvatore Ferragamo in Italy, and they have used, it's the first brand to use this exclusive orange fiber fabric in their collection. Or cork wool. So a company called Schoeller created an award-winning technology called cork shell, and it's made by applying layers of recycled cork from the wine industry on top of the wool to make it more breathable and more water repellent. So biofashion or biocouture, which is one of the most fascinating research programs right now. Here we see garments grown in the lab from yeast, sugar, and tea. Susan Lee in London at the famous Central St. Martin's School spearheads this project. And yeah, it grows and puts up layers. The layers you see on the left side, that's the bacteria, that builds up the material. And then she dries it and cuts and sews it and turns it into these beautiful pieces, or this shoe. She also spearheads right now the company Modern Meadow in New York that just released the first biofabricated leather material. Modern Meadow uses a technique called biofabrication. It's made out of collagen and genetically engineered yeast. So collagen is the main structural ingredient in natural animal skin. Or Stella McCartney, she collaborates with Bold Threads. Bold Threads develops fibers from scratch based on proteins found in nature. And she just released her latest collection a month ago with vegan-friendly silk that was created from yeast. Here we see a prototype by Adidas made from nature-based spider silk fibers called BioSteel, and nature-based and completely biodegradable high-performance fiber. So the most amazing thing about this shoe is that they claim that it will biodegrade within 36 hours if it lands on landfills and connects with proteinase enzymes. So we will see when they will release it. And biosynthetics are fibers defined as man-made fibers made from corn, soybean, milk, and seafood. Bioprinting. Here on the left side we see a petri dish that contains pigments of bacteria that can be found in herbs such as tarragon, oregano, and sage. And probably you know how toxic and how bad the whole dyeing process is for garments, or tanning process. That could be an alternative to conventional dyeing. So on the right side, it's a piece of silk that was dyed in this petri dish. Let's see what
the Rhizosphere Pigment Lab is a project that has been inspired by the bacteria within a root system of a plant. Every plant has millions of bacteria in its rhizosphere that are symbiotic often with the actual plant. A tarragon plant might have a completely different micro-ecosystem to a rosemary plant. So we screened several different herb plants for bacteria that are pigment producing and isolated the most successful ones. And so the project shows that process from provenance of the bacteria to the screening process of the different concentrations that we proved, and then finally the isolate dyeing some silk fabric in vitro. I get asked all the time, can we scale this up for industry? And I think that's where synthetic biology comes in, because not only can you program the bacteria to go fast to meet the demands of industry, but you will be able to program specific designer colors within a pigment-producing bacteria. So in the context of synthetic biology, I see that as being the mechanism for mass manufacturing.
So this is a really big movement right now, this whole fashion movement, and looking for new solutions, how we can reuse materials that already exist and not produce something new, especially nothing oil-based. So high performance in wearable tech, and this is quite interesting right now what's going on in this field. I love this picture. I chose this picture. It's from the Chanel collection. Karl Lagerfeld, he's always up to something. He has used 3D printing in Chanel collection, and he's fascinated with robots, etc., etc. So here we see the Ralph Lauren Smart Shirt. It monitors your heart rate, breathing, and movement activity. You see this little core here on the chest that sends all the data to your phone. And it's knitted with biosensing silver fibers and nylon. And silver is becoming very crucial in today's technology because it kills bacteria and odors, and it is able to act as a conduit between your body and your phone and your device. Another company that does amazing things is Thermal Tech. They have invented a stainless steel fabric that collects sun energy. It can be used as inner lining in your jacket to keep you warm, but it also can, there's many more applications, and can be knitted and woven. Here we see a French terry that is knitted with the stainless steel yarn, and it has also conductive properties. You have heard probably about this project. Have you? Google Jacquard? No? Levi's, the commuter jacket? Come on, guys. It was released, let's say, 4 or 5 weeks ago by Levi's. You can go online, buy this commuter jacket that is woven with a conductive yarn in your sleeve. And if you're riding your bicycle, so you just tap on your sleeve and it turns on your phone. You can make phone calls, listen to music, etc., etc. So it retails for $350, and let's see how it was created.
What I find fascinating about textiles is that the structure of textiles is the same to the structure of touchscreens, which we're using in everyday mobile devices and tablets. That means that if you just replace some of the threads in textile with conductive threads, you should be able to weave the textile, which can recognize a variety of simple touch gestures, just like any normal touch panel you have a mobile phone. So if you can hide or weave interactivity and input devices into the materials, that will be the first step to making computers and computing invisibly integrated into the objects and materials and clothing. So this is exciting to me. The challenge of creating jacquard yarn was to create yarn that is highly conductive and at the same time scalable. which means it could be used on industrial weaving machines everywhere in the world.
For textile designers or fashion designers or furniture designers, it is interesting because it's something you are very familiar with. It's just textile. We made the yarn very thin and feels so natural, so it looks like just normal yarn. The only thing different is it's conductive. We work with textile designers from all over the world, and it's really interesting to see what kind of possibilities that we can have. Could be visible, very obviously, like it's here. But also can be totally invisible. So we're creating possibilities by combining different way of weaving technique, and that's totally up to designers to choose, and it's up to their creativity.
We are trying to shrink down all the components down to the size of a button, and ultimately this will be something that's so small we can embed into the manufacturing process. So the users won't even see it or feel it inside the garment.
The idea that jacquard is an interface that is blended into the clothing that we wear, that has an implication in the way that you would use services, products, applications, and anything that we do through our devices. It's somehow getting the technology out of the way and making interactions more natural and more seamless.
In terms of what the technology can do, it's really up to the user and to the designers, and we expect that users can reconfigure it as much as they want to. Software development and fashion design often don't exist in the same place, so we're hoping to make it very simple for each of those parties to collaborate, and we're hoping to provide both software and hardware knowledge and components to make those collaborations very easy.
We like to think that we have these iconic products that haven't changed much, but the world is changing. So I think jacquard presents a great opportunity for brand, for design, to open a door to the future.
In tailoring, we use methods that have been used and not changed for 200 years. So when something new comes along, it's really exciting. What's amazing about the project is that I don't have to have any knowledge about the electronics and how it works. So let's see what we can create with it.
Jacquard is a blank canvas for designers and developers. We are just at the beginning, and we are really excited to see what people are going to do with it.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So it's a quite amazing project. So but we will see how far it goes or can go, because right now they say that it only survives 10 washes. So then the conductive yarn has been destroyed. Mapping brain activity. That's another kind of form of conductivity. Here we see a headpiece that is lined with Swarovski crystals that have been grown in the lab and have been engineered and painted with an ink that changes color through temperature that is caused by energy loss of the brain. So the heat, the energy loss causes the change of the colors. So the colors and locations of energy loss change throughout the day, which is amazing. It tends to be more orange in the morning at the front of the brain and much bluer in the evening to the back right of the brain. So let's see what Materials Alchemist and designer Lauren Bowker has to say about her color-changing ink.
My name is Lauren Bowker. I'm the Materials Alchemist at the Unseen, which is a materials exploration house, which is kind of based on integrating biological and chemical technologies into fabrics together with the cutter, Jess Smith, and the anatomist, KRISTINE. The unseen is a place where people can come together and find what the unseen means to them. We decided to use air to launch, which was an ink I developed over the past 4 years, which changes colour to pressure. As a consultant, we used that in Formula One and in car industries to visualise aerodynamics. And then we created a series of sculptures, which are behind me, which will change colour to different fluctuations of air around the body. We wanted to show that you don't have to just use digital, you don't have to just go and put it on a big pop star. You know, you can do it beautifully, and the technology is an add-on. Well, then we were approached by Swarovski. We were a bit like, oh, we're not really brand aligned. The more we spoke with the gemstone side of things, we went over to Wattens and in Austria, and we had a big tour of their factories. We realised how technically great they were, and creating a piece with them which had purpose. So it was beautiful, it was technical. When you think in different ways and shows that the brain is active, the piece will change colour. Although it was for Swarovski, the amount of people we've had from the healthcare industry side of things, and emails from parents whose children had not had any brain activity for certain reasons, and it was quite it's about creating something that people can have and that will change their lives. And I hope that will filter through to the NHS and to healthcare. And I've worked in that space before, and I left because it was very, very long-winded, and I didn't want to spend the next 30 years on one thing. But I think I'll go back to that. We're still so young, and we're sort of, it's going really, really quickly, and I think part of it because wearable technology is this massive buzzword right now. I'd ask designers using this stuff to be really exclusive with it and create luxury, beautiful one-off products that will last a lot longer than throwing it on everything and next season not being cool. The beauty of what we do is we don't have to create a new manufacture process, whereas wearable technologists and all these people using micro-engineered circuits and stuff have to go and find where they can get that from and try and create a new production line, whereas we can go straight into any textile production line that exists. We're building a lab here, we're building all the means possible so we can do small-scale productions and license out the technology that we create each season. Presently, the compounds that we have can sense up to 7 parameters in the environment, so they can sense heat, UV, pollution, moisture, friction, chemicals, and sand, and then we'll release our 8th one this season. We're working with big brands, 3 of which I'm not allowed to say they are, but have signed on from apparel, from automotive, and from architecture. Technology is the future of fashion. I don't think so, no. I think it will always be now. People don't really want change. I think if you ask me what 2050 looks like, it looks exactly like this, and then nothing's changed except everything's integrated. I don't think it'll be one moment where we wake up and we're all in Blade Runner.
Talking about Blade Runner, yes. Here we see, who of you have seen this Twitter skirt before? It was designed a couple of years ago already for Katy Perry by a company called Cute Circuit. And Cute Circuit is the first company that has been creating LED garments and interface design since 2004. They recently also released this graphene dress that is made with LEDs that change the color when the wearer takes a breath. So graphene is 1 million times thinner than paper. It's almost considered 2-dimensional. And the dress has a band around the waist with a stretchable graphene sensor that measures the wearer's breathing rate. So, and the LEDs are placed on a transparent graphene element, so it looks like the LED is floating. Let's listen to the Cute Circuit founders.
In the late 90s, I was working as an interface designer in Chicago, and I was really obsessed with interface design, but I sort of realized that interfaces were going to expand beyond just the screen and the mouse and the keyboard. I had heard about this institute in Italy called Interaction Design Institute, IVREA, and I went there with an interest in interface design and an interest in fashion, and that's where I met Francesca.
And I was working as a normal fashion designer. It was like my first job out of university. I was a Valentino. They started to have all these ideas about fashion that was a little more. And then people just tell me, no, you cannot do it.
When we left the Interaction Design Institute of Freya, we formed Cute Circuit around this concept of designing advanced fashion that uses wearable technology. When people say wearable technology, they immediately think of either Google Glass or some bracelet that you strap on the wrist. But both of those solutions were taken pretty much from a technology point of view. They thought, oh, let's think of some technology and figure out a way to strap it on the body. And I think that for that reason, people can't imagine them wearing it, because if you want to wear something, it has to be first and foremost a piece of fashion. So we design the fashion, we design the technology to go inside, we even write the software to control it and the software that runs in the technology. So we can make a dress that looks perfect like that, because we designed every single little aspect of it.
Developing all our raw materials, I think the most amazing thing is that we convinced the manufacturer to manufacture small conductive ribbons for us. And that is definitely a game changer, because at that point there are no electric wires, they feel horrible in a garment. We designed the way that we interconnect smart fabrics, microelectronics, and traditional textiles in a manner that allows the garments even to be washed.
Most of our garments are also connected to the internet, so we have truly telecommunicating garments.
So at the Barbican Digital Revolution exhibition, we're going to be displaying this beautiful miniskirt that's going to be controlled via a small tablet, and it's going to display tweets from the people visiting the exhibition and a series of animations. And the miniskirt was worn previously by Katy Perry for the iTunes Festival while she sang Roar, so of course we're going to have animations of tigers displaying on this skirt as well. I want to dress Lana Del Rey. I think she's awesome. I want to dress Miley, and she's super controversial too. I just want to keep dressing Katy because I love Katy. I want to dress Michelle Obama.
I always wanted to dress Michael Jackson. And we missed that opportunity. Over the 10-year evolution of the company Cube Circuit, we've seen quite a change though, because when we started and we said we're designing fashion with wearable technology, everybody said, what's that? We just got back from the Maker Faire in Paris 2 days ago. It was great to have kids come up to us, you know, teenage kids that knew all about wearable technology. And that's really inspiring because it's great to see a new generation adopting the new technology.
Yeah, I love them. They are really on the forefront and doing all kinds of fun experiments and fun stuff. Then here DuPont has launched recently the first products of stretchable conductive inks that can be printed on textiles to produce smart activewear and health monitoring clothing. So I will show you a video by the University of Tokyo who has developed a similar ink that can be printed on textiles and is
With this newly developed ink, electronic functionality can be added to the fabric merely by printing the ink atop the fabric. Even when the ink is printed onto the fabric itself isn't damaged. In addition, if the fabric is stretched, the electronic function isn't lost. Sensors that read biological information, such as myoelectric and electrocardiographic data, can be incorporated onto the fabric. This research has made it possible to easily use clothing as a substrate for electronic circuitry by simply printing on the fabric. I hope to be able to clear the way for future applications of this technology in a variety of fields, including healthcare, welfare, and sports.
So, and who of you is an NBA fan, basketball fan? So what you can do now or buy now is the shirt of your favorite player and be connected with your favorite players. So they, NBA and Nike have created a jersey that connects you to your favorite athlete. and yeah, gets you connected to exclusive offers as well, and the game you love. So I just think that's fun. So LeBron's jersey is a little bit more expensive than the ones of the other players. And 3D printing. Do you guys have 3D printers here on campus? Small ones, big ones? Small ones, the maker bots, or? Formlab, okay. So yeah, 3D printing is really breaking new ground. So it offers sustainable and innovative alternatives, not only in the textiles, but materials, interiors, and then, of course, in the biomedical field. So by printing human tissue. So this is what I call the first generation of 3D printed dresses. It was created for Dita Fantis. We had at Fidden this dress on loan. It was designed by Michael Schmidt and Francis Bitonti, and it was joined together from 17 single printed pieces. Whereas this next generation already was all printed in one piece by Shapeways and Kinematics. And then here we have a quite amazing project by a young former student in Israel, Danit Peleg, who has created an entire collection on a little MakerBot at home. And I will show you now 2 videos, because the first one is 2-3 years old when she came up with this whole collection, and today she is a little bit more advanced and really is selling the first 3D printed jacket online.
My name is Danit Peleg. I just graduated from Shankar College of Design. I wanted to create a ready-to-wear collection printed entirely at home, using printers that anyone can get. I've spent the past year searching for the best solution. I worked with leading experts in the field. I really like the result. It looks a little bit like lace. And it moves beautifully. Potential. If you're called to print your own jacket, traveling with no luggage, just print your clothes in the hotel room. Will we soon be able to design, share, and print our own clothes directly from home?
What do you think? Will we be able to do that soon? I think so. So I would just show you now the next stage of her design. As I mentioned, that she has created a jacket now that can be bought online.
Last year I unveiled a ready-to-wear collection printed entirely at home. I was amazed by the incredible global attention that 3D printed fashion got. 3D printed fashion even made it to a mainstream stage, such as the opening ceremony of the Paralympic Games in Rio. But the technology still has many challenges, and until now has only been available for the runway. In the past year, I have worked to make 3D printed fashion available to more people, which is why I created an online store letting anyone customize, personalize, and order my new jacket. It takes 100 hours to print every jacket, which is why I can only print a limited edition of 100. I believe that one day we'll be able to download our clothes and print them at home. But until then, finally you can buy 3D printed clothes online.
So who would wear a jacket like this of you? You guys? Okay, cool. Yeah, me too. And Adidas just recently released the 3D printing midsole that fits your foot, matching exact contours and pressure points. But it's printed in a different way. So I think over the years the materials already have changed from really like sturdy or hard nylon polyester to soft rubber-like TPUs or like this sole. So I think the breakthrough will happen in the fashion industry when they discover how to print with natural fibers, such as cotton or wool or what else not, and then it's going to be a major step forward. So here we are. What do all these cool things that I just showed you have in common? So they reflect our vastly changing lifestyles. However, wearable technology and smart fabrics have been hyped for a while, and the web is actually overflooded with similar ideas. There's a big frustration about non-existent products that pretend to be available and actually are not. So the consumer is confused. I'm confused because I'm doing research on a daily basis, and if I try to get some materials that have been hyped and I realize, oh no, they're not available, then I'm getting really mad. So, and smart fabrics need to be more than cool technology. They really need to provide a solution. Textiles and technology do not speak the same language right now. Therefore, a completely new approach and expertise is required. We need to merge two industries: tools, materials, and processes, and manufacturing are changing. So collaborations with other industries are inevitable. New job descriptions, such as Materials Alchemist, Synthetic Biologist, or Design Futurist, will be necessary to move forward. And designers need to explore electronics, software, bioengineering, and an entirely new retail world. We are looking right now at a major technological revolution. So can the design world or the design industry rise to the challenge and push forward new technologies? And can the tech world embrace the aesthetic sensibility of the design industry in a creative, aesthetic, sustainable, and eye-catching way? So I leave you with these questions. Thank you very much. So, any questions?
Yes. With access to all these different types of materials, is there any concern with how they might react with various people, like orange peels and mushrooms? They can have essential oils that can cause skin rashes, or ocean plastics are contaminated with latex. How might that affect somebody with latex allergy?
Yeah, I think all these materials have been so much processed that there's not much left over, like from the citrus peels, the oils, So there's always a downside to these materials that I showed you, because of course they've been using chemicals. So to break down the plastics, to break down the citrus peels or the coffee grounds, etc., etc. So yeah, it's just about using these materials that are sitting on landfills or already there, and yeah, not using new stuff that is made with oil.
There's a 3D printer out there called by a company called Markforge. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it introduces carbon fiber thread into it. I don't know if you had heard of any printers like that that are integrating other types of fabrics and or materials that for different types of uses.
Yeah, no, unfortunately not. I haven't heard. No, can't answer that question. Yeah?
With materials like the cover, the material itself has been stretched, and they're already short strand fibers to begin with. What's the longevity, do you think?
I can tell the longevity, so I think that's what we have to see. But I know that major brands have been using it now, and I don't know how many washes or how many dry cleans the yarn survives. So does that or not answer? So I think all these materials are in the stage of experimenting, and we will only know, I believe, in a few years what the impact is, as well with all the wearable technology, the conductive yarns. We actually can tell that it's probably not very healthy for the environment. Neither is the silver yarn, so we already have research that silver ends in the water stream and has been eaten by fish, and so we eat the fish, etc., etc. So I think the same applies to recover yarn. So I think it's a great thing that they don't die, nor they don't use any chemicals, you know, to break it down, so to make this new fiber, make the new yarn, but about how long it's gonna last, I don't know.
Over the last several months, there's been research that's been being circulated that shows polyester and other synthetic fabrics that are being washed in our personal machines and laundromats and whatnot are leaving these microscopic
microfibers,
microfibers into the ocean, and they're being found in shellfish and seafood and whatnot. And Patagonia started selling this bag that you could put your clothes in that'll, you know, help hinder that effect.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if there are other phenomena like this that maybe we're not aware of, that you know, that in clothing that we're using every day that is affecting the environment negatively, and if there is solutions that you know of.
Yeah, I mean, so almost anything what we wear is not very environmentally friendly, right? As I mentioned at the beginning, the fashion industry is the second largest polluter in the world. So they've been using, I don't know, 25% of all water. They use chemicals. I don't know who of you have seen River Blue or the True Cost. Have you heard about True Cost? This is a must-see for everyone. So either you're interested in fashion or not interested in fashion, it's really about the environment. So, and how bad we, as consumers, and it's a thing of education. And so I'm really happy that you're here, because I can sense that many of you don't know about these things, and I hope that you do a little research when you get home and learn about these things. And so we all go and shop at H&M. However, H&M tries to do something positively, but they're still on the forefront of fashion. So is Zara, so all major big companies, and they are really bad. And the whole production process in Bangladesh, India, China, how they pollute the rivers, the water, it's just mind-boggling. Please watch the True Cost.
So you've presented two technologies, or two approaches that are obviously completely at odds with each other.
Yeah.
So the circular economy and wearable tech. When the wearable tech, which is gimmick now, scales up to meet the needs of the fashion industry, that's going to amplify the problems of just
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, and this is really like very contradictory. So there's on one hand then this whole sustainability movement and to get away from all this, and then now the whole technology, wearable tech movement with the conductive yarn, like for the Levi's jacket. So where does the conductive yarn go?
So as cool as all this stuff is, do you think it's irresponsible to keep developing that kind of product?
That's a good question. Irresponsible, I mean, so we were all using smartphones. We don't know the impact yet. Many people claim it causes brain cancer. Who the hell knows? I don't know. We don't know. But it's just moving forward, moving forward. And when in the 50s when polyester or nylon was invented, nobody knew, it was the greatest and the most amazing thing. And today we know that polyester is so bad and nylon is bad because it doesn't go anywhere. It sits on landfills and sits there for 700 years and doesn't go anywhere. Even, the concept of bionic yarn, it's still plastic, right? They retrieve plastic from the oceans, make a denim jacket out, but if the denim jacket lands on landfills, it still sits there.
Right now it seems like environmentally friendly clothing is still really expensive. Is there a push to bring the cost down in the fashion industry? When do you think it'll be obtainable to a normal?
Yeah, that's depending on you or us, the consumer. The higher the demand, the lower the cost.
So to play off of that question a little bit, it seems like there's a lot of experimentation happening right now on both sides, tech and sustainability. Is there a demand for the industry to just kind of pick one that's low cost and does everything that we need it to do, is sustainable and tech friendly and those sorts of things? Does that demand exist, or does the industry want to have variety of materials?
The industry, I think the industry wants what the consumer wants, or does what the consumer wants. And we are still not educated enough. I can really tell because at FIDM we have tours coming through my innovative textiles room every day. And I really realize that people or young people have no clue what's going on. Not in terms of pollution, environment, no. There's a profound lack of education and information.
Yeah, to add to that, because there is a lack of education to the consumer. I mean, the consumer, I feel like it only follows who's on the face of that design product, like a celebrity. I feel like they only follow that. So
yeah, exactly.
As a designer, we should be taking responsibility for that.
Yeah, you have to. And as I showed you the circle of the circular economy, it starts with you as a designer. You pick the material that you know the material can be, at the end of the cycle, can be upcycled again, so put back into the circle, or if it lands on landfills, that it's biodegradable. So it's your responsibility as a designer. What I'm wondering, and I don't know, maybe you can answer this question, why in the food industry we see a whole different development. Everybody is running now to Whole Foods and tries to eat healthy and is very conscious about what to eat and what to drink. And so, but if it comes to fashion and design, not as much. Yeah, and of course it's a cost thing probably, you know. It's cool to buy a t-shirt or 2 t-shirts for $5 and toss them 10 weeks later, or I don't know. Yeah.
To bounce off your analogy of people being, looking to eat healthier at Whole Foods and whatnot, is there something akin to, say, we look at the nutrition facts and look at the fat and calories and ingredients and whatnot? Is there something akin to that for all of us in the fashion industry, to where we can, kind of see what the real impact of these purchases were having?
Some companies already try to do it. There's an amazing company here in LA, Reformation. So, and it's all about transparency, that they really show you and let you know from the very beginning where they source their materials, who made them, and how much water they've been using, and what's the dyeing process, etc., etc. So it's hard, you need to do research, but there are companies out there that are transparent and that give you all the information. There's still not like the USDA, as it is in food, that's certified organic or certified, there's lots of fraud out there still, but more and more companies become transparent and release the whole production process. So Reformation is really great. Yeah.
In terms of fast fashion and how it's cheap, and we've seen companies like Zara and H&M, they have quick turnover rates and therefore have a lot of waste. Would you say, as someone who's going to more sustainable and environmentally friendly, would you recommend that people steer away from these companies, since it is harmful to the environment?
Yes, of course, I would say yes and no. However, I must admit, so I'm in a big conflict and big mess myself. So I must admit, because here I'm tall. It's very hard for me in LA to find clothing that fits me. Then aesthetically, I'm European. I'm very minimalistic in my taste. So I'm the only company that meets my demands or my needs is unfortunately Zara. So, what I'm gonna do? So, and I haven't found any companies, or sustainable companies. So, Reformation, you know, Reformation makes clothes like for you guys, young, thin, beautiful girls, you know, but not for my age, unfortunately. So I'm living every day with a bad, how you say? I feel guilty every day. So.
How much pushback is there from, say, like a proverbial big cotton or big wool brands for new fiber development in terms of technology?
What do you mean by pushback?
So the idea that Recover could take a ton of market share from the cotton industry as they figure out how to reuse cotton faster than cotton can develop. And if the customer's position on cotton changes and realizes how much waste there is in water and how toxic the dyeing process is, we can re-harvest that. Could it potentially and very likely kill the cotton industry because all cotton is necessarily already made?
Yeah, no, I don't think, not right now. I think, we're not there yet. I mean, I don't know if it would be a good thing. So there's, of course, potential for organic cotton, but this is another whole very expensive process, you know, and the cotton industry is so powerful. I don't think there's a way that they're going to be pushed out by companies such as Recover or so. No way.
Do you have a recommendation? You mentioned there's a lot of bogus stuff online when you're researching, and you are a professional researcher. A lot of our students, when we go through, you know, pretty heavy-duty projects, and most of the research is done online. Do you have any recommendations for finding genuine information, or being able to spot some of the bogus information, and or companies that are just putting out BS?
Yeah, if it comes to sustainability, for example, Textile Exchange is a really great company, major company, that addresses like organic cotton or cotton and other fibers. Then Inhabitat is a great research engine, and Sourcing Journal. It's, for design, I mean, sometimes Design, you know Design,
Specific to the kind of crossover of technology in like the wearables, because a lot of that is, you know, even some of our students produce ideas that can be represented in a way that looks like it's on the market.
But this exactly is my issue or my problem as well. So I haven't, there is, not that I'm aware of, like a really reliable source that tells you that this is, that exists and that doesn't exist. So this is just from learning or trying or to hunt these people down, you know, like the shoe company in India, you know, then you write 10 emails or you get on the phone and then you realize, oh, they don't even exist anymore or never have existed, etc., etc. It's a really hard game on a daily basis to be consistent and then figure out That even with Adidas, they announced 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the shoe made from ocean waste, it still hasn't been released, you know. And I have, my contacts at Adidas, and nothing has happened. I'm really surprised that Levi's came up now with a commuter jacket, because I saw them a year ago in Boston at the Smart Fabric Conference, where they launched the jacket, and it took another year, to release it or to put it on the market.
So would you say basically following up or vetting that information and not just...
And some companies, they don't have time, or they don't answer your emails, or don't return, and you need to be persistent. The same with Patagonia. I've been hunting people at Patagonia. They think I'm crazy, probably, or I don't know. So, this woman, stay away from it. So, but yeah.
So, as you said for yourself, like when it comes to trying to find some clothes that are helpful for the environment, would you say that out of your research, have you found a list of companies that we as students can say, like, it's almost like going to the grocery store and going, oh, this is the organic route, we can definitely go for that. Do you have like that list, or maybe recommendations where they go?
There's two, I highly recommend 2 books. So there's one by Kate Black, and Kate Black has invented the so-called eco sessions here in LA, New York, Toronto, Montreal, Berlin, and she has written a book, Magnifico, and she lists all kinds of designers, companies, beauty companies that have been using sustainable and eco-friendly products. Then there is a directory called Fashion Dex. Fashion Dex Sustainability. So they have other fashion dexes like trims and fabrics, but this is the green sustainable fashion dex, and that is quite amazing. It lists designers, companies, dye houses, etc., all over the United States.
And you do tours at the FITM Textile?
Yes, and you are really welcome anytime to visit me in the Innovative Textile Materials Department at FIDM. You just send me an email, I give you my card, or give me a 24-hour notice in advance, and then I will tour you and show you some nice stuff. Thank you.